Hello, Garland Nixon here. And in case you haven't heard, Joe Biden apparently has okayed ATACMS long-term strike, long-range strikes into Russia. I think we ought to discuss this. Let's talk. Hello, Garland Nixon here. And so, in case you haven't heard the news, a lot of people watched George Galloway today. Other people have been, just kind of looking around on YouTube and seeing that Joe Biden now has cleared the long-term strikes in ATACMS strikes by, of course, U.S. military personnel. They will be, but in a nutshell, here's what Joe Biden has done. Without congressional okay, he has said U.S. military personnel not may, but are instructed to attack Russia. That's it. That's it. U.S. military personnel under Joe Biden's authority will fire long-range missiles into Russia. Now, let's start and look at a little history here of just one. And I think it's important to look at this particular article. This was from Reuters, right? And look at the date, September 6th. This was before the election. I think that may be critical. Let's go on. So what do they say? U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin cautioned on Friday there was no one capability that would turn the war in Ukraine in Kiev's favor, right? After President Zelensky urged the West to let its forces use long-range weapons to strike Russia, right? And they said they could hit targets such as airfields inside of Russia. We go further down. They said we're going to continue to give strong support. The Pentagon chief pushed back on the idea that this would be a game changer. He said there's no one capability that will in and of itself be decisive in this campaign. He said Ukraine had capabilities of its own. There are a lot of targets in Russia, big country, obviously. There's a lot of capability that Ukraine has. So the bottom line is this. When Ukraine and, of course, various other neocons and warmongers had said, look, we want to authorize Ukraine. In other words, the United States and its allies, NATO, should attack Russia. That's the argument, because as we know, and as Russia has said clearly, these attacks couldn't be carried out by Zelensky's forces, by the Ukrainian forces, because of the technological capability necessary, and also because these things are part of, it's not like you throw a rock at somebody. These are net centric. They're part of a system. Okay, so they have to be connected to the satellites. They have to be connected to various other computer systems and networks for targeting and other things, and then they have to be guided in. So the bottom line is the U.S. has to set them up. The U.S. has to fire them at Russia, NATO forces. And so there are a number of missiles that can be used by various NATO forces to attack Russia. But Russia's position is clear. We're not stupid. Come on, let's not play this game. We're not going to pretend that if you use Ukraine as a platform, if NATO uses Ukraine as a platform to attack Russia, we're not going to pretend like it's Ukraine. If you shoot at me from your house, or if you go next door to your neighbor's house and you shoot at me from there, it's you shooting at me. Let's not pretend that because you're shooting at me from another home or another place, that you're not the one shooting at me. So, I mean, this is obvious. It's logical. It's reasonable. It's what anybody with a, reasonable mind would consider. And this is the discussion that should be had, right? NATO. See, again, I've talked about this before. It is the issue of plausible deniability, right? It is in a proxy war. What is a proxy war? The U.S. uses Ukraine in this instance, or Israel in another instance, but they use Ukraine as a proxy for plausible deniability. right? How can I attack Russia? How can I go to war with Russia? How can I have various, because now we've got, a broad spectrum of war making against Russia. Certainly, there's economic war, there's diplomatic war, all those kinds of things, right? But of course, there's kinetic and physical war. So the question becomes for the Biden administration and the neocons, how can we be involved in a kinetic war where we attack Russia with plausible, at least the minimal amount of plausible deniability? Where the Russians are winking, we know you're attacking us. Where we're winking, yeah, we know we're attacking you. Everybody on earth knows you're attacking Russia, but we want to leave just enough distance between us and the people who are firing the weapons that there's some plausibility to it. That there's just some that where we say it's not us. There's something left to say, okay, look, we know it's you, but there's enough room between you and the perpetrator that we'll play that game. In reality, we all know what's up, but Russia's saying we'll play that game. It is in our best interest to play that game because we don't want to get involved in this World War III and a nuclear war. It's in your best interest. It's in Europe's. It's in everybody's best interest if we allow Ukraine to be far enough away from you that, okay, we don't have to fight it out. Let's do it. We'll do it that way. Russia, and also it benefited Russia for this reason, because they always knew they were going to defeat Ukraine. They knew they were going to defeat Ukraine. So why not? Why not say, okay, if you want to pretend that Ukraine is an independent nation, we'll go along with it, because let's face it, we're going to defeat Ukraine in anyway, sooner or later. So what difference does it make to us? We'll play this game. We'll defeat Ukraine. We will and while we're doing that, from the Russians' perspective, we get some other advantages. We get to bring other people on our side. We get to play the diplomatic game. We get to play the economic game. And of course, we get to demilitarize NATO in a nutshell, because as long as NATO, I've said it in a while, for quite a while, it's like a trash compactor. That's what Ukraine is. NATO throws all of its military hardware into Ukraine, and Russia gets to destroy it. You put it in a trash compactor, and they get to mash it. It kind of worked for Russia in a way. It really worked for them quite well, right? But they said, we're going to play the game as long as you play it. As long as you're like, hey, it ain't us, we'll be like, okay, it ain't you. But we're going to tell you, if it gets to the point where we're like looking at you, where you're going to stand there and look us in the face and shoot at us and say it ain't me, yeah, we won't go that far, right? Okay. Now, what the U.S. has said, particularly, it's interesting that Austin said that, because the Pentagon, what we've heard all along is the Pentagon's pushing back. But so what Austin said all along is, let's be honest, it ain't going to change this thing. And everybody knew. I mean, the neocons lie a lot, but everybody knew they were telling the truth there. Everybody knew that what they were saying is, look, even if we give you these missiles and you strike deep inside of Russia, they're still going to kick your ass. So why are we wasting our missiles? And why are we taking a chance of getting nuked? Nah, we ain't going to go down that road. And that was the Pentagon's position, right? And so it worked. Now let's see what we got, and let's see where we is now, according to the New York Times. Where is we? Not where are we? Where is we? We is screwed, blued, and tattooed, I think. But let's look. All right. Big New York Times things. Biden allows Ukraine to strike Russia with long-range missiles. The first thing I think of that is this. Ukraine is an independent and sovereign nation, aren't they? Then why do we have to allow them, right? All along, one of the things that this does, and one of the reasons, the first reason that this erases the plausible part of the deniability that the U.S. is at war with Russia, one of the reasons is because we got to give them permission. Because we're saying to them, you can't do it. Now, what Russia says is, well, of course they can't do it because they can't fire the missiles. You got to fire them, right? But even if we go along with their firing the missiles, which they aren't, why does the U.S. have to give, why does Biden have to give them permission? If you think about the whole thing, the neocons, Keir Starmer and various neocons in Europe have come to Biden. There was a report that Keir Starmer and Tony Blinken came to Biden a while back and said, you got to let them do it, right? Here's the question. If Ukraine is an independent nation, why can't Keir Starmer just say, go ahead and do it. If the UK is an independent nation, why can't the UK say to the US, screw you, we're going to give them our Storm Shadow missiles and help them fire them. We'll do it if you won't. Why? If everybody's independent, if this is a bunch of independent nations that have come together to defend Ukraine, then why does Keir Starmer or anybody else have to ask permission from Joe Biden, right? Again, all of these things drops that veneer of deniability, of plausible deniability. It gets rid of that. It's like, come on, let's look at the whole, this thing in totality, right? All of these people, all of the neocons in Europe come crawling up to their master's home in DC. Oh, master, please allow us to help to fire these missiles using the Ukraine as a platform. Please allow us to do that. I mean, they make it so obvious that this is an empire, that this is an imperial project. Master, please allow us. Oh, great Emperor Biden. And Biden's like, be gone. I will not allow you just now. Be gone. Okay. So let's look at what they're saying. Let's keep going. Oops. Sorry about that. Let's get back to what they're saying here. And let's look at, okay. 2 months left in office, which we shall discuss. The president, for the first time, authorized the Ukrainian military to use the system. The Ukrainian military can't use the system to help, quote, defend its forces in the Kursk region of Russia. Defend its forces. So it's purely defense, right? Let's go on. Okay, and it says the weapons are likely to be initially employed against Russian and North Korean troops, right? Well, first of all, now you understand something. Look, we all knew there wasn't North Korean troops in there. I mean, it was obvious. They're like North Koreans. At first, there was 500, and then it was 1,000, and then there was 10,000, and then I've seen 50,000. You know what I mean? The next thing you know, it'll be like 1 million. There'll be no North Korean troops left in North Korea. They're all in Russia, fighting with Russians, right? But now we see the game. You're wondering, why the hell do they keep saying that North Korean troops are in Russia? Why? Number one. Number two, isn't Russia, they're not, but let's just, for the sake of argument, let's just say they were, right? Isn't Russia an independent and sovereign nation? Couldn't they, if they wanted to? Well, here's something I recall. I recall the United States and their intelligence operatives recruiting mercenaries from all over the world, right? There's been French, there's Polish, there's NATO personnel there getting killed. Remember when they hit the big hotel with the pizza joint in it, and all of these NATO people get killed? Every time you turn around, there's NATO officers crawling all over Ukraine, the Kursk region, you name it. So basically, once again, it gets back to the empire, right? The empire says, we can do whatever we want and you can't. We can bring troops from anywhere. We can put our own troops in there and fight you. And then, so the U.S. says, we can put U.S. and NATO troops in Ukraine. They can die fighting the Russians, and then we can still say NATO's not fighting the Russians, and we're just there to help them with stuff. You know, we're helping them train or something, right? Now, again, I do not believe for 1 second that North Korean troops in there, but then they say, oh, Russia's putting North Korean troops in there. Unacceptable. Well, it's a war, and since when you're at war with somebody else, do you tell them what the rules are on the other side? But now we see all of those who looked at us and said, there ain't no damn North Korean troops. You see why? They had to make the argument if they wanted to consider attacking Russia. They needed an excuse. And of course, you notice that happened before the election. They didn't know if they'd lose or not. And they're like, crap, what's going on? Well, we better set something up. So if we lose, we got to be able to do something here. We got to be able to turn the chessboard over. We lose. Let's start with this North Korean troops thing. And then if we lose, then we can go along and say that we had to do it because the Russians brought in the North Koreans. What else are we going to do, right? Remember what they said. This ain't going to change nothing. It will not alter anything. But now we got to do it. Now, I also say this. What's interesting is if you look at the first two paragraphs, let's look at the first things that come out of their mouths can be telling. The first paragraph says they've done it I mean, they start the first couple paragraphs, the second paragraph. So they said that he'd done it, but then they say it's against North Korean troops. Well, that's a tell. That tells you that the whole North Korean troop bull crap was a setup so that if they lost, they would have an excuse to move, to do what they wanted to do and turn over the chessboard, right? Next, Mr. Biden's decision is a major change in policy. Now, the first couple paragraphs will tell you all you need to know to figure this thing out. Listen to this. The choice divided his advisors. So we know there's a lot of people saying, don't do this. We're all going to die in a nuclear war. And to which Biden would probably say, yeah, that's kind of the idea, guys. We lost. We got to start a nuclear war and kill everybody because, hey, what other options do we have, right? And his shift comes 2 months before President-elect Donald Trump takes office, having vowed to limit further support for Ukraine, right? They tell you right off the bat, the North Korea crap, that's our excuse. That's why we've been saying it. That's why we've been building up this lie. In case we needed his excuse, we'd have it all set there. Number two, yeah, just after Trump won and he's about to come to office and he says he's going to stop giving money to Ukraine, maybe we got to do something and fast, right? It said this came in response to Russia's surprise decision to bring North Korean troops into the fight. So that's what he said. North Korean troops are in the fight, which we don't believe, number one. We don't believe it. But you remember something? Hey, it's not going to fundamentally change anything. We'll change nothing. It won't alter the course of the war. Let's do it now, right? But he tells you early. It comes 2 months before Trump comes into office. And he said he didn't just vow to limit support for Ukraine. Trump didn't say he was going to limit support for Ukraine. He said he's getting the hell out of Ukraine. Limit support, right? Limited support. In a way, no support, and saying we're out is a way of, I guess you could argue, limiting support, right? Zelensky did not confirm the permission, but said that more important than lifting the restrictions would be the number of missiles used to strike the Russians. I have a funny feeling. The Russians are going to respond. I have a feeling they're going to respond. And it is my guess, I may be wrong, they'll kill Zelensky. They know where he is all the time. They know where he is all the time. And it is my belief that Zelensky is signing his death warrant. It is my belief. The Russians have said, if you do, we will respond, and it will be a major response. Now, let me say this, since we're talking about Zelensky. They're sick and tired of dealing with that maggot anyway. Let's talk about this. They're sick and tired of dealing with that maggot anyway, right? Let's talk about this. I was going to wait till later, but this is the time to talk about it. The Russians aren't stupid. And they know good and damn well what's going on here. And they know that this is the cheese in the trap. They know good and damn well that the Biden team is like, we are screwed. And Trump's going to come in, and man, what dirt on us is out there is going to fall apart. It's going to fall out, rather. The dirt, that all the stuff that we've done is going to fall out. It's going to come out. It's going to show up. And then we are going to be in a bad situation, probably jail or worse, whatever, and exposed for our lies and criminality. And we can't have that happen. So perhaps a nuclear war will brush it all under the rug. Perhaps World War III will brush it all under the rug. We got to do something to brush this under the rug. And the World War III would be great. So the Russians know that. So I could be wrong. The Russians could say, we tried to tell you, buddy. So we're going to blow up NATO headquarters. We're going to blow up the bases we told you. So now you got a bunch of bases on our border. We told you not to do this. And so one of the things Russia could do is say, yeah, effective immediately, there ain't going to be no more U.S. or any NATO bases on our border because we're going to eliminate them. I mean, if I were Russia and my move was to hit NATO, and what I would have to do is say, well, I'm going to hit NATO because they hit me. And I got to make sure that if they want war, it's real hard. I better influence their decision. So if NATO hit me, if I'm Russia and I said I'm gonna hit you back hard, I would obliterate every base on near me. I'd say, okay, go fine. This is what you want. All of the bases in the region of me are gone, are incinerated, are immediately done. It's over with you. Now what you're going to your move. I told you I wanted your infrastructure off my borders. I told you I didn't want to fight you, but I will if I have to. And now you fired first. I played the game as long as I could. I played the plausible deniability game, but I warned you. The minute the plausible deniability game is up, it's going to be a new game. So if I were Russia and I wanted to retaliate against NATO, it would have two effects. Effect one would be letting you know just how much power I got. Effect two would be, if you want to hit back, I'm going to make it real hard. All those missiles that Russia's been saying, oh, I don't want these missile firing, the Aegis missile launchers that they got in Poland and Romania, these missile launchers in Romania, all these missile launchers that they got encircling Russia. If I'm Russia and I decide to hit back at NATO, that's what I'm taking out. I'm taking out your capability. I'm going to severely weaken your capability to hit me back. You punched. When I punch, I'm hitting you so hard, you're going to have to think twice. It ain't going to be easy to punch back. If you want to punch back, see, you know what I mean? It serves two purposes. Number one, I retaliate. Number two, if you want to retaliate, right, you're going to punch me. I'm going to I might take a punch, but now I'm going to get your wrist and I'm going to snap your wrist. And I have made it harder. Now you're fighting with one hand. And I'll break that one too if I can. So now I'm going to take away your ability to counterattack, right? Boom. So if I'm Russia, I might just trash all of their bases. I'm definitely going to trash all of those missile launchers. They're gone. They're done. I wouldn't want to be a soldier anywhere near them because you're going to get vaporized. If I'm Russia and my choice is to attack NATO, now I think there is a wiser choice that Russia could do. And I suspect this may be the choice. A decapitation strike against Ukraine, right? If I'm Russia, I could say, you know what? This Zelensky's and Budanovs and all of these sons of bitches have been getting on my nerves for a long time. And I have suffered the effrontery for them to exist long enough. This guy's getting on my nerves. I tried. I did everything I can. I talked to him. I said, we'll talk to you. I said, we'll do whatever we want. But no. Nothing from you but trouble. And I also know that this is a desperation move by the Biden administration to try to draw me into World War III so they can, either go out in a blaze of glory or they can start World War III and leave Donald Trump with World War III on his hands. So I already know they're up to no good. If I'm Garland, you put me in charge of Russia. What is my move? Decapitation strike. Look, first of all, let's be honest. You think they don't know where Zelensky is? You think they don't know where the leadership of Ukraine is? If I'm Russia, I warned you. If you are an MP, you're a member of the RADA, you're a member of, you're a member of their government, anywhere. You're anywhere on there. I'm putting a missile on your house, putting a bomb on your house. Now, because my other option, right? My other option is, of course, to fire on NATO. And now I fired on NATO. Now I got to deal with potential nuclear war, World War III. In fact, if it's a potential nuclear war, I might strike first with nukes if I'm Russia. But I'm saying, my move, if I'm going to hit, whether I use tactical nukes or not is irrelevant. I may not, but all of your bases on my border are going to be gone. You're going to fight me with no bases on my border. That's how you're going to fight me. No radar, they're gone. Bases, naval bases, you name it, all of that crap anywhere near my border is going to get hypersonic visitors immediately. Because if I got to hit you, I'm going to influence your decision to hit me back. You're gonna have to think about that because it ain't going to be easy. How you gonna hit me back now with, submarines or something? That's what you're gonna have to do. Now, whatever happens, you got no bases. Wherever we go, you don't have bases on my border. Okay. Furthermore, or back to what I'm saying about Zelensky, since we're talking about Zelensky, that little mosquito's been bugging me. And if I eliminate, if I obliterate, if I decapitate the leadership of Ukraine, who's running it? Now I say to NATO, it really is yours. What you going to do? What you going to do? Well, you going to call Zelensky? He's dead. You're going to call the MPs and tell them to bring the rod of their parliament. You're going to bring their parliament together and come up with a plan for you. That ain't going to happen because they're dead. What are the Ukrainian soldiers going to do on the front line? All right, guys, what's coming down from headquarters and our leadership? They're all dead. Well, what should we do? Yeah, that's a good question. There ain't nobody to answer that question because they're all dead. So I wouldn't be shocked if Vladimir Zelensky is signing his death warrant. I wouldn't be shocked. And look, you think the Russians can't kill him wherever he is? You think if he's not in Ukraine, if he ain't in Ukraine, that means he can never come back. He knows he can't come back. If he first of all, and let me add this. If Zelensky would say, go ahead, let's do this, and then leave Ukraine, and then a total decapitation strike by the Russians, total, complete, absolute decapitation strike by the Russians, right? Obliterate. And we're closing everything down. We're decapitating that. Oh, by the way, this is war now. You ain't going to have electricity anywhere in this country. There will be no electricity in this country. So we're going to decapitate the leadership and we're going to shut the power down everywhere in this country once and for all. Right? I mean, that's the options Russia have. They can say, we're going to stomp this. We're going to, as my buddy's old football coach used to say, we're going to kill a gnat with a sledgehammer. And so I'm guessing that, and let me add this. You think Trump is going to lose any sleep? You think Trump and his crew are going to lose any sleep at all if Zelensky's dead? You think Trump's going to be, oh, darn, I'm going to get you now, Putin. You killed Zelensky. You're going to get it now. No, brother. In fact, Trump will probably pick up the phone. Hey, Vladimir, did you kill Zelensky? Yeah. High five, bro. Thank you for getting rid of that son of a bitch. He was getting on my last nerve. Be around in a month or two. We'll have a deal. Thank you, Jesus. You killed that bastard. I didn't know how to kill him myself. I wanted to kill him. I didn't know how to kill him. So, hey, good work. Look, tell you what, just lay low a little bit. Another month or two, we'll sit down and work this thing out. But nice to see that bastard, that comedian bastard, meet his maker. I don't think Trump will lose any sleep. I really do. I believe. And now let me add this. Let me add this. If I can think of this, if I can say to myself, if they do that, the Russians may likely, the first thing they may very well do is launch a decapitation strike and annihilate, obliterate, to use Trump's favorite word, the leadership of Ukraine, kill them all. Like that. They know where they are. They got spies all over. Come on, Ukraine is loaded with Russian spies from one end to the next. Let's be honest. From end to end, it's loaded with Russian spies. You think they don't know where the leadership of Ukraine is on any given day? They do. And if they start firing ATACMS into Russia, I think very shortly you will find out that they know. I still remember when the war, reading about the war. And one of the things that I read was when the war first started, Zelensky was horrified that the Russians were going to kill him. So he was hiding in a bunker and he asked a former Israeli prime minister to talk to Putin and say, are you going to kill me? Apparently the Israeli prime minister went to Putin and said, Putin, the Russians were like, we ain't killing him. And then he came out, yeah, they don't scare me. Ha, ha, ha. And he's a big tough guy, right? Once he found out they weren't going to kill him. My point being, yeah, I think you messed up this time, bro. I think that you're done for if you do this, number one. And here's the other part of it. I don't think Biden's going to lose any sleep anyway. I think to some extent the Biden people might have gamed this out. I mean, come on. Who am I? Schmucky the clown? I am not some brilliant international geopolitical mind here. I'm just another putz on YouTube. How much brain power does it take to figure out that if Zelensky pisses off the Russians, they're going to kill him? I'm pretty sure that the people at the CIA headquarters and NSA and all of that they've all come to Biden and said, yo, look, some of them at least they said, look, if you do this, they got an option. What are the options? Well, number one, they could friggin' nuke us, okay? They could blow up all our bases. Well, I hope that doesn't happen, but maybe it will, and we'll have World War III. Hooray! Probably pretty likely they'll kill Zelensky and everybody that's dear to him. His whole inner circle, they're dead. And that's when Biden went, tell me more. That mouthy bastard knows a whole lot. He knows way too much. And we're getting real close to the time when I won't be around to shut his stinking little mouth. He's a rat. He's a rat. And he's going to talk. And he's going to talk about the crypto. And he's going to talk about all the things that we told him, the underhanded, the lies, the cheating, the stealing, the money going to me and Hunter. He's going to talk about everything. We don't want him to talk about everything. So let's get back to that decapitation strike. Are you saying, dear little advisor, that you think that if we allow ATACMS to be used against the Russians, that they'll probably almost certainly launch a decapitation strike and turn Vladimir Zelensky into a flambe? Of course, his advisors are like, yeah, that's what we're saying there, President. Oh, yeah, well, those damn North Koreans. Oh, my God, North Koreans, they're everywhere. We got to stop them little sons of bitches. Hey, let's move forward with that strike. We got to, come on, North Korea doing bad things. We got to act on that immediately, if not sooner. Make your move, right? So I think that Joe Biden may be looking to resolve a problem, looking for the Russians to resolve a problem for him. Hey, how can we get them to kill Zelensky? Well, if we use ATACMS, Joe, they'll probably kill Zelensky. Really? Yeah. Okay. Well, wouldn't want to use ATACMS to do that because we wouldn't want Zelensky to die now, would we? We wouldn't want the guy that knows all the dirt on us. And the guy who, as of January 20th, will have every motivation to talk. His ass will be on a line. And you know what? And Trump can say to him, look, if you talk, maybe we'll bring you here in exile. You can live in Florida somewhere, in a gated community next to Juan Guaido or something. So how's that sound? And then, let's just say for the sake of argument, Matt Gaetz or whoever the hell is the attorney general. And he says, look, I got all the dirt on Biden. I got videotapes. I got audio tapes. I got, you name it. I got it. I got receipts. I got bank accounts. I got everything on Biden and his whole crew. They're filthy. And Trump says, okay, well, in that case, let's make a deal. You can come over here. You're good. Biden can't have that, can he? Can't allow Vladimir Zelensky to be in a position where he may benefit from the tremendous amount of knowledge that he has about criminality and corruption and about all the lies that were told to the American people. So I suspect that this is maybe one of the ways that a very desperate Joe Biden and Tony Blinken have decided that they can rid themselves once and for all of Vladimir Zelensky. So how now, what's interesting? It just shows how stupid Zelensky is. If I was Zelensky, I'd be trying to ride this thing out. Like the last 60 days, I'd just be trying to ride it out. I'd like say to the neo-Nazis, Heil and stuff like that. And I'd goose step around and pretend like I loved them. And then on the 19th of January, I'd say, probably a good idea if I go to DC. I'm going to need to talk to Trump and all of his people. So I'm going to head out. I'm gonna be packing maybe a little extra stuff than I normally take because I mean, I need somebody to water the plants. Of course, if you there you go, Adolf. Could you water the plants for me? Thanks. Great, great, great. But I'm gonna be making my move to DC, and I'll talk to Trump, and I'll be back. And no, trust me, I'll be back soon. And I would get on that plane, and that's the last they would ever see of my ass in Kiev. I would touch down in DC, and I would go talk to Trump, and I'd say, I will tell you everything I know. Just let me live. You could have did that, Zelensky. As they say, you could have had it all. You could have had it all. Gated community and Miami. The whole, your wife could shop. You've been to Miami Beach. There's all the expensive places. She's got all that stolen loot. Oh, man, you could have lived so good, Zelensky. But you played in the sandbox with the neocons, and now you gotta die. And now, let me add this. It really makes it easier for the neocons, because otherwise they'd have had to kill you themselves. And then they'd have had to kill you, and they would have had to blame it on the Russians. So what they would have had to do was whatever they do, choke you out with some piano wire or something. However, they will dispatch Vladimir Zelensky, as they surely would do, put him in a building or something, and then send a message somehow back channel, accidentally leak a message over an open frequency that there was all kinds of generals and stuff in a building somewhere outside of Kiev, set it up, attract the Russian missiles, and in comes an incoming Zircon, Kinjal, whatever the case, all of the above, right? And now, of course, like the old thing where the old deal where people kill somebody and set the house on fire. Well, you choke him out, you put him in a building, you get the message to the Russians that there's a big high-level meeting in that building. The Russians blow the hell out of it with a Kinjal missile, and then you say, "Oh, those damn Russians killed poor Vladimir Zelensky, you bastards!" Right? "Oh my God, you killed Kenny, you bastards," right? That's what you say, right? But you killed him yourself. This is easier. You do this, you hope the Russians kill him, and you walk away, right? But even if it turns into World War III and we all die, you still win. Let me explain. You're Joe Biden and the neocons and Blinken. And Trump said coming in. And the potential is there for an investigation. Trust me when I tell you this, the Biden administration cannot survive an investigation. Can you imagine the amount of dirt? Do you remember Sam Bankman-Fried? Now think about this. There was this crypto company that started somewhere between 9 and 20 days after Joe Biden won the election. A crypto company starts. Crooked crypto company with ways to get rid of money where nobody would know it. And then they start giving all this money to Ukraine when this whole conflict fires up. And Ukraine's buying crypto, invested in a crooked crypto company. And the people in the crypto are all connected to Democrats and people in the Obama administration. Something's real rotten with old Sam Bankman-Fried's crypto company. And they set it up to take this crypto company, if you recall, they set this crypto company up to take donations from people who wanted to donate money to Ukraine. And it took in $10 million in the first 30 or 60 days, right? And then nobody knows what happened after that. Nobody knows after that. What happened to the money, where it went, if there was more money, no record. Can you imagine if the people coming in the Trump administration say, let's start turning over some rocks? And in fact, let's go start bringing some people in that were involved in that crypto company and questioning them and telling them, you're going to go to jail if you lie. You better start talking. Can the Biden administration allow that to happen? Think about Tony Blinken, the 51 former intelligence officers who all said that what's his name? That Hunter Biden's laptop was a Russian disinformation. You imagine if I don't know, whoever, Kash Patel or whatever his name is, or if Matt Gaetz started looking into that, they'd all go to jail. they'd be under the jail for the rest of their lives 10 times over. It would be, I'll say what I've said about Russiagate. If there was an actual investigation into Russiagate, into deep state Five Eyes operation, it would be shocking to the American conscience. What happens if Matt Gaetz comes in and he says, I'm going to find out who Joseph Mifsud was? Who the hell is Joseph Mifsud? We're going to find out who he was, and we're going to put it out there in the news so everybody knows. Can you imagine that? Who is this guy? I remember when this guy was, creeping around, and I said to someone who has a background in intelligence, and I said, I don't think he's a real person. He is an operation. He is an invented person. And that person who, no, Garland, he's real. He's real. I said, I don't believe it. Mifsud ain't real. He is an invented cover. Nah, he's real. And he's disappeared, and they can't find him, and nobody knows what happens if they start looking into the Mueller report, and the Durham report. These people allegedly talked to Mifsud. What happens if they look at it and they find out they didn't talk to Mifsud, because there is no Mifsud to talk to, and that these investigations into Trump were frauds? How can you put in an investigation that you talked to Joseph Mifsud and there's no such person as Joseph Mifsud? It's a cover, which means the whole thing was an operation. The Durham bullcrap was an operation. The Mueller, the whole Mueller thing was a crooked operation. What happens to Andrew Weissman, who ran the Mueller operation, if the Trump people start looking into it? Everybody's going to jail. So the Biden administration is like, look, me, everybody around me, everybody who knows me, everybody who benefited, everybody who met me, everybody who's heard my name, we're all going to go to jail, guys, and we will be humiliated, and the world and the country will be shocked at the level of corruption in the Biden administration. I believe that with all my heart. In fact, I know it to be true. They'd rather die. They'd rather take a chance of World War III than that. Because let's not forget, this whole thing has been adjudicated, shall we say, in the court of public opinion, right? This thing has been adjudicated. Donald Trump, okay, this for a while, ran. And what did Trump say? If you elect me, I am out. I am done. I am finished with that. Now, there are many of us who said, yeah, but this whole Israel thing, this is the most unthinkable crime known to humanity. And that's why I couldn't vote for Trump. Couldn't support Trump. I can understand people who did. Okay. I couldn't, because of, I couldn't support any of these bastards because of what's happening in the Middle East. It's a horrible thing to Gaza. But notwithstanding that, Joe Biden and crew said Donald Trump is a Russian bot, and he's got Russian bots all around him, and they must be stopped. We got to support Ukraine. They're not going to support Ukraine. I mean, this was a central discussion. The Trump administration is going to let Putin run all over everything, right? And what did Trump say? If you elect me, I'm getting the hell out. Now, whether he could or not, that's a different discussion. But my point is, the narrative clearly in the media was this: if you elect Biden, his surrogate, Hillary's surrogate, they will continue with this crap in Ukraine. If you elect Trump, we don't know that Trump can end it, but Trump's position was, right, for the sake of this case that's being adjudicated in the public sphere by the voters, for the sake of this, we had two sides. One side saying we must continue with the same mentality that we have. We must continue with on the same path when it comes to Ukraine. That's the defendant. And the plaintiff said, if you elect me, I'm getting the hell out. I'm done with this Ukraine stuff. It's terrible. It's dangerous. We could have World War III. We're out of here. The public voted overwhelmingly. There was no mystery to the public. They knew what they were getting, and they made a decision. The decision that the public made, the American people, right? Not white people, not women, not black people, not any gender or number of genders thereof. There was a, what would you call it? A um, varied group of, races and sexes and ages and all that you could think of that makes America all came together and said, we want out. That was the vote. That was a part of it. There was a number of things you were voting for and voting against, but a big part of it is, do you want to stay with this Ukraine thing, or do you want out? Trump said, I want out. Harris said, I want to in. And they overwhelmingly voted to get out. This has been adjudicated, and the people of America have spoken. You can't even now say it was a Republican. This is a right wing. No. Overall, the people of America spoke. We want out. We're done with this. Trump won. His argument won. So what the Biden administration now is saying, yes, we understand America spoke. They want out, but they can't have it. In a way, the Biden administration demonstrated why they shouldn't have won. They again demonstrated to the United States, they demonstrated to the people they can't stand them. What happened as soon as they lost? Hey, you lost. All those damn black people and Latinos that voted for Trump or stayed home, a bunch of white supremacists, all of them. Now, brown and black people are white supremacists. As odd as that may seem to them, they're probably shocked. They're probably surprised. I, for one, since I didn't vote for Kamala, I guess I fall into the category of white supremacy, which I find it quite shocking and alarming, to be quite frank. But what the hell? If I'm a white supremacist in the eyes of the brainwashed cult that is the Democratic Party, so be it, right? But my point is this: it's done. The people have spoken, and what Biden is saying is no. The answer was always no. We don't care. You know what it reminds me of? If you study Abraham Lincoln in his election of 1864. In that election, prior to the election, things was not looking good for the Union. They were losing battles. Things had been going bad for some time, right? And so they were like, well, who are we going to elect? And, we can't even run Abe Lincoln, because if we run him, he'll surely lose. And who else will we run? You heard the same thing with General, what's his name? If chosen, I will not run, or whatever. If elected, I will not serve. That was okay. They're talking, well, how are we going to replace Abe Lincoln? Because we're losing all these battles and people went out. We got to end the war. So, Lincoln said he knew what was going to happen, that they were going to cut a deal with the South if he lost. And so he said, so here's what I'm going to do. Now, back then, interestingly enough, you were elected in November, but you didn't take office till March. So they had, what's that? November, December, January, February, March. They had an additional 5 months. Right. So what Abe Lincoln said was, if I lose, I'm going to call my generals together and I'm going to say, all hands on deck. Every man you got, bring your entire army once and for all. We're going to march on Richmond. It's going to be a hell of a clash, but we're going to get this thing done once and for all. So Abraham Lincoln had actually planned that if he lost, he was going to bring in all his troops and he was going to march on Richmond, because he said, we got to keep the Union together and we got to keep this country together. And I'm not going to allow these bastards to win and to negotiate away the South. And now we don't have, we don't have a unified country. Not going to happen. So he had planned, if he lost, he had a plan he was going to do, right? Similar kind of thing. Well, might I add, a year or so before the war ended, there was a turn of events on the battlefield. The Union started winning a lot of battles. Things turned around. He won, and the rest is history, right? But which is interesting to talk about the history about the attempted murder of, the assassination of Abraham Lincoln, which for some reason our government put forward like it was a single madman, when in fact it was actually attempted coup of the entire Lincoln administration. In fact, 5 people were hung, including a woman, as part of this coup attempt that many argue was run out of Toronto, believe it or not. But at any rate, let's keep going, or Montreal, whatever the case may be. But so which means there was the South, there was European help, but I don't want to get sidetracked. So let's keep going. So I think we're seeing something similar, where the Biden team said, look, if in fact Trump wins, the people have spoken. And, we don't give a damn about the people. And the people have said, we want this war over. Well, that makes it even worse. doesn't it? Because it's one thing if just Trump wants it over and the people say, we don't really want it over, let's keep fighting. But when Trump says, I want out of here, and the people make it clear, yeah, Trump, we're voting you in, we want out of here, do what we voted you to do, and we'll go from there, right? Well, they can't have that. So now the Biden people are like, we got to do something to, if nothing else, we got to get Zelensky killed. Come on, we can't have this rat bastard running his mouth all over creation and everybody around him. So I think a part of this is to set it up, hoping that the Russians launch a decapitation strike against the Ukrainian leadership, which I suspect they will, and or B, you start World War III, Trump comes in and you got World War III. And he doesn't have time to investigate you because he's got World War III to deal with. Hey, I'd like to investigate Biden. Sorry, can't do that. World War III is going on. Oh, crap, darn it. Okay, well, as soon as World War III is over, I'm looking into this Biden crap because he's up to no good. And they're like, well, I think you understand that World War III ends with the nuclear annihilation and the end of all humanity. So you won't be able to investigate Trump. Investigate Biden. And what does Biden care? He's got one foot in the grave and the other on a freaking patch of ice anyway. He's on the way out of here. And the rest of them are like, well, if they find out what we did, we'll probably all get hung for treason. So what the hell? We're going to die one way or the other. The question is, how much wisdom does the Russians have? I think Russians have the wisdom to know their options are, number one, option one, retaliate against NATO. And they can retaliate against NATO by taking out all the NATO bases kinetically. I just say, well, we're going to retaliate against NATO. Europe, yeah, you've been enjoying, man, you get a lot of oil from us, don't you? Yeah. Gas too, don't you? Yeah, you get no more. Effective immediately, I shut it off. NATO's a battle with me. Think about this. One of the fundamentals of war is that you don't do business with the enemy. Once you are at war, I mean, I could argue that it happened during the Civil War, whether you know it or not. In New York, these super rich people who made all kinds of stuff, clothing and uniforms, were shipping them to both sides. The oligarchical scum in New York was still making money off both sides, right? You can say that in 1943. George Bush's, I believe it was his father and another guy, a Democrat, I forgot his name. Anyway, they had a bank. They were still financing the Nazis in the middle of the war. They're financing the Nazis. FDR had to shut it down. So it's business done by low-life, scummy oligarchs with the enemy, sure. But it's underground. It's not really supposed to be happening, right? So I'm just saying, at that point, if I'm the Russians, I got 2 months, and I know they're desperate, and I know they want to bait me in so they can have World War III, and they can stop, they can do, that screw with BRICS. Then a lot of things they can do if they get World War III going on, right? And let's face it, the truth is, the U.S. wants to obliterate Europe. They're a little too mouthy for their own good. They won't listen. And they're ready to vote other people in. So why wait around until somebody comes in Germany and might start looking at the Nord Stream 2? Wouldn't you rather have Germany flat, black, and crispy and all nuked? Wouldn't you much rather have that than they start looking in the Nord Stream and next thing you know, somebody saying, hey, Biden, for God's sake, you blew up Nord Stream. And Olaf Scholz knew it. He gets hung. And Lena Baerbock knew it. Rope around her filthy little stinking pencil neck. All of the leadership, if it's found out that they attacked, that they were knowledgeable of that attack, which they were, it could cost them their lives, or at least the rest of their life in a dungeon, right? So my point being this, the Biden and the neocons in Europe are in a bad way, and they may view the alternative of World War III and nuclear war as an option, as opposed to a rope around their filthy little pencil necks and have the, shall we say, the chair yanked out from under them. So I think this is a game, but again, I don't think the Russians are that stupid. I don't think the Russians are stupid at all, but I think the Russians know we're going to do what we're going to do. Now, the other option is the Russians just say, screw it, we're going to act in the way we're going to act. But I think the Russians, everybody knows that the American people have spoken on November 5th. If nothing else, if you don't take anything else out of it, You know that there were competing arguments in Ukraine, and they decisively voted for the one who said, I want the hell out. That's an answer. Let's keep looking at this a bit more before we go. Just a little bit more. And look at it. While listen to this, while officials said they do not expect the shift to fundamentally alter the course of the war, they said that. So that's known. So one of the goals of policy change is to, now listen to this, send a message to the North Koreans. Send a message. What are you going to do? Well, this could be extinction for all humankind. Fair enough. This could be a thermonuclear war and every human being could die. Good chance of that happening. You know, this could be World War III and millions of Europeans, Russians, Americans, tens of millions, hundreds of millions, possibly even billions of lives could be lost. But that's not important. The important thing is that we send a message to the North Koreans. One of the goals, think about that. It's a narrative. We got to send a message to the North Koreans that their forces are vulnerable. A message. That's it. A message to the North Koreans. And you and I already know that the North Koreans ain't in there. And if they are, let me add this. And if they are, Russia has a right to call any allies. Question is, does Ukraine have any allies working with them? One or two. So the idea that Ukraine have arranged, the Ukraine's a puppet state. The U.S. Let me ask you this: did the U.S. get military help from South Korea? Did the U.S. get artillery rounds from South Korea? So the U.S. can involve South Korea, but Russia can't involve North Korea, even though they probably really even aren't. But so it's this: we can do anything we want. We can bring in South Korea. South Korea, let's get busy. The Russians may be involved in North Korea. No, my God, we got to act now. That's unacceptable. All right. Some U.S. officials said they feared that Ukraine's use of the missiles could prompt President Putin to retaliate with force against the United States and its coalition. So they acknowledge that it's possible. Look, this could start a war, and we're already at war in the Middle East, and this could start another war. Other officials said those fears were overblown. Now think about this. The term overblown doesn't mean they're not real fears. Overblown. Well, I think this could cause Russia to shoot back at us. Your fears are overblown. Now, don't get me wrong, they're valid fears, but they're not that big a deal. Let's see. Let's see what we got. Some Pentagon officials opposed because we have limited supplies. Some White House officials fear that Mr. Putin would widen the war. Widen the war, in other words, to here. Supporters of more aggressive posture say Mr. Biden's advisors have been too easily intimidated by Mr. Putin's hostile rhetoric. And they say the administration's incremental approach has disadvantaged Ukrainians on the battlefield. Here's what's interesting. Didn't they just say? Think about this. So here's what they say. This will not fundamentally alter the war. In other words, Ukraine's going to lose. But not giving them this will disadvantage them on the battlefield. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of Jaws. Remember when the Jaws was biting the guy Quinn, and he's in and the Jaws clamping down, the shark's clamping down on this guy's body, and blood's coming out of his mouth, right? And he has a little penknife, and he's trying to stab the shark. Now, if you were to take the penknife from him, it would disadvantage his fight against the shark. Would it fundamentally alter the dynamics? Well, let's see. He's in the shark's mouth. The shark is clamping down on his body, and blood is coming out of his mouth. I don't think that while, in fact, removing the penknife from his hand would disadvantage him, I don't think it would fundamentally alter the outcome. He's going to be shark poop in the end, right? He's going to get eaten by the shark. He's in the process of getting eaten by the shark. But we wouldn't want to disadvantage him by taking his knife. Makes no sense. Some proponents of Mr. Biden's approach said it had largely been successful at averting a violent Russian response. Allowing laundering strikes on Russian territory using American missiles could change the equation. So they're sitting there saying, well, you know, the Russians could hit us. They couldn't strike the U.S. And we're in World War III. Yeah, but that's overblown. Those are overblown. Um, Now, since then, U.S. officials have become concerned about the state of the Ukrainian army. It's been stretched thin, right? It's been pounded into dust. And the introduction of 10,000 North Korean troops. And Mr. Biden's response comes as Mr. Trump prepares to re-enter office with a stated goal of quickly ending the war. Mr. Trump has said little about how he would settle the conflict, but Vice President-elect J.D. Vance has outlined a plan that would allow the Russians to keep the Ukrainian territory that their forces have seized, right? I think they're telling you the problem. Let's see. While British and what's it? So we got some Michael Turner. So we got, let's see. Zelensky has sought permission from the Ukrainians. Okay. While British and French leaders voiced support for Zelensky's request, they were reluctant to allow the Ukrainians to use. In other words, they're like, "Yeah, go right ahead. Hey, will you let them use yours? Are you out of your freaking mind? Hell no! The Russians will blow us to shit. You know what kind of idiots do we look like? No, we let them use ours. The Russians will never nuke us into it. Now, you dumb sons of bitch. You good friendly allies. Go right ahead and do it. We'll be over here eating freaking baguettes and schnitzel. You go right ahead. We ain't that stupid, right? Mr. Biden was more risk averse than his British and French counterpart. What are you risking? You're risking our lives. But one thing we found out about the Democrats, let's be honest, they hate the voters. The voters overwhelmingly voted against them, and they hate the voters. They despise the voters. In fact, they may be sitting in there saying, you know what? I didn't want to start World War III. I was hoping not to. I was trying to avoid that. But those damn voters, they voted for Trump, or they stayed home, or they voted for Jill Stein. And I want them to die, every last one of them. Hey, get over here. Tony, yeah, how can we kill all the voters? Well, sir, if we fire attackers at Russia, I suspect the Russians will retaliate, we'll get into a nuclear war, and all those bastards that voted for Trump will die. Let's get that done. Let's get it done. But we will die with them. Dude, have you looked? I'm 107. I probably got hours left. Let's make this happen, would you? We want these voters to die. I hate them. Haven't you been watching MSNBC? They're sexist. They're racist. They're homophobes. They're everything bad. They got to die. I hate them. I hate the Russians, but I hate the voters here far worse than the Russians. Fuck them. Death to the voters. They got to die. Okay, let's make it happen. Let's see. Some of Biden's advisors seized on a recent U.S. intelligence assessment that warned that Mr. Putin could respond with lethal force against the United States and its European allies. You don't need a U.S. intelligence assessment for that, bruh. You do not need some egghead to comb through the data. Hey, what do you think could happen? Well, let's see. The Russians could blast the hell out of us with nukes and then we'd all die. Really? Boy, how much data did it take to come up with that there, buddy? Oh, hours and hours. Well, actually, I just watched YouTube, and this guy named Garland Nixon said, hey, if we fired the Russians, they might kill us all. We'll lead a nuclear war, we'll die. Oh, yeah, I watched that video, too. It was pretty good. Anyway, the assessment warned of several possible Russian responses that included stepped-up acts of arson and sabotage, as well as potentially lethal attacks on U.S. and European military bases. What do they care? That's only U.S. soldiers. They're dispensable. Here's what Biden's saying now. Let's do this. Well, they might hit our bases and kill a whole lot of U.S. military personnel. I don't give a damn about U.S. military. That's their job. They're expendable. They're there to die. Look, we got to get the American people that voted for Trump. They need to die. And if we got the soldiers got to die, everybody's got to. We'll do whatever. We're all going to die sooner or later. Make this happen, for God's sake. I'm president of the United States. I only got a couple months left. Listen, officials said Biden was persuaded to make the change in part by the sheer audacity of Russia's decision to throw North Korean troops at the Ukrainian lines. Yes, sir. In fact, I think they used like catapults. They throw them at the Ukraine. They you take a Russian troop, you set them on there, and then you yank the thing, and then the catapult goes, and then they go flying at the. You're just projectiles. They're throwing them at the. You know what I mean? Really, except we know they're not there, but they don't care. That's what the North Korean crap was about. Let us continue. U.S. officials said they do not believe that the decision will change the course of the war. Yes, sir. Will it change the course of the war? Well, if you mean that it'll cause us all to die in a nuclear holocaust, yeah. Other than that, I don't see much of a problem with it. Let's make it happen. But they said Mr. Biden determined that the potential benefits, Ukraine will be able to reach high-value targets that it would not be able to, and the United States were able to send a message to North Korea, outweigh the escalation risk. So let's see. What are the potential benefits? Even though we acknowledge that it won't alter the outcome of the war, the potential benefits are Ukraine will be able to hit some high-value targets that couldn't hit otherwise. Okay, yeah, that's okay. And the United States will send a message to North Korea. Hey, North Korea, couldn't you just send them an email, fax, a carrier pigeon? No. It'll send a message. So Ukraine gets to hit some targets it couldn't otherwise hit because the missiles will go further than the other ones. I think that's a logical evaluation, a logical deduction. And number two, North Korea gets a message. Damn it. You don't call them. We want a message to North Korea. And it says, outweigh the escalation risks. So what are the lists? What are the benefits? Let's do a cost-benefit analysis. What are the benefits? You can hit some targets you couldn't hit, and you send a message to North Korean troops that don't really exist. Okay, there's our benefits. A message, a narrative thing. Will it alter the war? Nah, hell no. Okay, let's say the risks. Let's see. The Russians could blast the hell out of a lot of our bases and kill a lot of people. That could turn into a nuclear conflict, and all humans will die. Clearly, it outweighs the risk. Certainly, it's well worth risking a extinction level event to send a message to North Korea and hit a few extra oil depots deep in the Russian Urals. Let's see. So that's it. Well, there we go. That is it. I think a lot of this has to do with the fact that they're really horrified that things are going to go bad and that could be investigations and they could all be exposed for the criminals they are. I think that the Russians will likely retaliate, in my opinion, in two ways. And number one, I'm almost sure of this, decapitation strike. If this happens, they'll kill everybody. You can take this to the bank. Everybody in Zelensky's circle, that dumb son of a bitch, you gotta laugh. You almost gotta laugh. I mean, it's like they sucked them in. Hey, what do you want there, Vladimir? Yeah, I want to do something that'll surely get me killed. Oh, okay. We wouldn't want that to happen now, would we? They're looking at each other grinning. Wink. Hey, Vladimir just came up with a plan. It's going to get him killed. What do you think? Oh, it's going to get Vladimir Zelensky killed? Yeah, make that happen, would you? Can you believe? I mean, this guy, if they do it, he will not last a day. He's done. They know where he is. And if I were Russian leaders, I'd kill him. All of them. Him, I would, at that point, the Ukrainians would have to fight with no leadership. And I mean all of them. Look, want to talk about denazification? I would have a list. Everybody who was the leaders of the Azov, the people in the Rada, which is their parliament, who are like pro-Azov and stuff like that. If I was the Russians, and I'm like, I don't right now, I got a chance to talk to Trump and we may be able to work this out. In fact, let me go one further. You might be doing Trump a favor. Because if in fact it happens as I think it was, and they fire, some ATACMS, hundreds of miles into Russia and hit some friggin' airfield or some depot or whatever, and the Russians launch a decapitation strike, and like I said, if you're an MP, just if you happen to be watching this in Ukraine and you're an MP or you're a member of the whatever SB or something like that, I'll be getting the hell out of Ukraine right now because they're gonna kill you. You're done. And the Biden administration is happy to have you done. And that's what I'm saying. If I were the Russians, that'd be A. B. If I'm at war, I ain't selling you no energy. And the Europeans are getting a lot of energy, and it's starting to get cold. And I would then say to the Europeans, look, in a war, you don't sell energy to your enemies. You have attacked me. Slovakia, Serbia, Hungary, I can still do business with those. France, Italy, Germany, and all that. Anything you need, there's certain things you're still getting from me. You're still getting some food stuff. You're still getting some fertilizer. All of that is cut off until such time as this war ends. As long as I'm at war with them, I'm at war with NATO. You ain't getting shit. Bye. Click. Don't call me. Olaf Scholz, don't call me back. So that's what I think Russia's first move will be, a decapitation strike. It's it for Zelensky. He's dead, and everybody that works around him, works for him, knows him, heard of him, drove by him, delivers his coffee. They're dead, done, vaporized. Number one, he signed his death. You know what I just read? His epitaph. Vladimir Zelensky, born, July 12th, 1974, died November 23rd, 2024, in a violent blast from a Kinjal missile. He'll be ripped apart. I mean, there will be nothing left of him. He's going to be ripped to pieces, along with all of them, ripped to pieces. And they'll be on the run. And the ones that the Russians don't get day one will be on the run. They'll be like, holy shit, there's a decapitation strike. Get me out of it. Yeah, it ain't going to work. You'll be trying to leave. There'll be missiles chasing your BMW as you try to drive it. You're done. They're done. So at any rate, that's my thoughts. I may be wrong, but I'm just saying, if I was in charge of Russia, that's kind of what I'd do. And I suspect the Russians will do the same. And I suspect that a lot of this is about the election. This is a response to the election. That's what this is. All right. Now, what we're going to do, what we are fitting to do, let's look at we got lots of, we got some super chats. Well, I can understand that. I'm going to answer them all. Sparky says, keep in mind, Israel's killed many more Americans than Iran has. Remember the USS Liberty. Oh, yeah, that's Israel. Israel is, that's a whole nother bag of worms, brother. Go on, Ansar Allah, fight the power. I don't know if you know it or not, but let me answer old Sparkster on that one. So apparently Ansar Allah, Yemen, recently hit an aircraft carrier. I think it's the USS Abraham Lincoln is limping back to San Diego for repairs. My understanding is the Americans are saying, no, they didn't. Iran released some photos. Now, I'm guessing it may be satellite photos because Iran has satellites, or maybe the Russians might have done it, somebody, but it could be drones. But there's satellite photos, video released of what appears to be a aircraft carrier with a lot of smoke. I think it's on fire or something. So the word is Yemen knocked the hell out of them. And let me ask you this. If you can't protect yourself from Yemen, do you really want a piece of the Russians? You really want a piece of the Chinese? Yemen's kicking your ass. Hey, how's things going with Yemen? Man, they're knocking the shit out of us. What are you going to do? I think we're going to leave them around long. We'll go fight Russia instead. That should be considerably easier. Let's keep looking. We got lots of them, so I'm going to answer them all. Sparkster says, tell President Trump to pick Brown University's Mark Blythe for Treasury. I know Blythe. Blythe knows that austerity for the masses doesn't help economic recovery. He saw how it failed in the EU. Yeah, I know Blythe. Mark Blythe, I have interviewed him many, many times. Seems like a nice guy. I don't agree with him on everything or lots of things, but he's a good guy. Matthew says, Russia has won this war. Why would they bother doing anything to escalate to a war with NATO where that is at risk? Exactly. So just kill Zelensky and move on. I think that's what happens. I ain't advocating it for it. I'm not saying that. No, in fact, I am a man of peace. In my opinion, I hope nobody dies. I hope that, they find a way and Zelensky doesn't have to die. I don't want anybody to die. I'm just saying. What did Malcolm X say? He says, look, be peaceful to everybody, love everybody, be friendly to everybody. But if somebody puts their hand on you, put them in the cemetery, right? It's me. I don't want no trouble. But if you come after me, one of us got to go. That's all I'm saying. If you come after me and you try to hurt old Garland here, it ain't going to work out well for somebody. It might be me. I'll go down trying to defend myself, but I'm not going to turn the other cheek for you to kick me in that one too. I'll tell you that right now. And If I was in charge of a country and my job was to defend that country, and I knew that there was millions of my citizens at risk, even one of my citizens at risk, it is my right to do, it is my duty to defend them. And if I thought that I told you what I do as the leader of the country, I'd never do anything to hurt Zelensky or anybody else, and I hope he survives, and I hope everybody's fine. But if I'm leading the country, I'm launching a decapitation strike. That's what I'm doing. Of my choices, that's the best one at this time. That's all I'm saying. Thanks, Nick. Let's see what else we got now. Let us continue. Sparkster says, it's thought that the British killed Himmler in custody so he wouldn't report that King Edward VII was sympathetic to the Nazis and how close England came on to being on German side. I'm sure. Oh, England, all the ruling class in England were all pro-Nazi, and let's face it, the U.S. and the West created the Nazi monster to go after the Soviet Union. Zelensky could suffer Himmler's fate. Yeah, I think you're right. Oh, he can't. I just see no universe in which Zelensky is allowed to live up to January 20th. But he may. Rolf says, which Yankee cities are best to hit in an exchange? All of them. If in fact there was a nuclear exchange, that's it. It's all. We're all done. So that's not like. I've always said if there's a nuclear exchange, your phone goes off. Dude, take cover. Nuclear weapons, nuclear missiles. I wouldn't take cover. I wouldn't even, if I was doing right now, if my phone went up, bloop, and I looked, it was like, hey, take cover, nuclear weapons incoming. I'd finish the live stream as best I could. The truth of the matter, there's an old saying about in Zen, right? And there's some Zen masters sitting around. You might have heard me say it before. And people are like, well, if you found out we were all going to die in 30 minutes, what would you do? And one guy says, I would do I do one different kinds of Zen. I do walking Zen. I do sitting Zen. And they asked this guy that one of the masters is sitting there peeling potatoes. And they say, what would you do? And he says, are you kidding me? See all these potatoes I got? In other words, what the hell difference does it make? I'm peeling potatoes. If I got 30 minutes to live, peeling potatoes is just as good as anything else. So if I was in the process of cutting grass, I wouldn't even hurry up. I'll keep cutting the lawn because I'm cutting the lawn to cut the lawn. I'm not accomplishing anything. It's what I'm doing right now. I'd walk in a room and get a drink, turn on the TV, see what was there, maybe go for a walk, listen to some music, whatever, who gives a damn? Doesn't matter. Doing what I wouldn't be like, oh my God, I gotta go see my child. Oh, I gotta see Uncle Joe. I gotta run, I gotta make a phone. Too late for all of that. If I ain't seen him, if I haven't hung out with him enough, what difference does it make? An hour from now, it won't matter. So why bother? Just keep doing what you're doing. Why get yourself all excited? Imagine if Baltimore or Detroit were destroyed. Hey, the neoliberals are doing a pretty good job of destroying them. Of destroying them without nukes. How about that? Oh, let us see. Let me continue. We got more people that got stuff to say. Rolf Steiner says, USA wants to fight the Russians, North Koreans, Iranians, Chinese, and 2 billion assorted Muslims that hate them. Are you feeling lucky, punk? Well, are you? Yeah, exactly. I don't know if you remember, like a year or so ago, I did a video about that. Basically said the neocons are at war with everybody because they're at war with modernity. As the modern world changes, the neocons say, the world, you're not allowed to change. There are new world powers that are rising. The neocons say they're not allowed to rise. There's new technology that's arising. That's not allowed to arise. China's building its technology is growing. China, you're not allowed to grow and build your technology. So is Russia and Iran. No, none of them are allowed to do that. Nothing's allowed to change. Everything has to stay the way it is. They're the ultimate conservatives. Well, bad news. You're not just at war with people. You're at war with reality. You can't win that one. All right. Let's continue. Oh, Rolf says, is this happening because the USA empire is bankrupt? In a nutshell, yeah, it's all economics. It's all economics. And we were bound to be bankrupt because of neoliberalism. Neoliberal capitalism just kind of works like that. Let's keep going. Andrea, this is all assuming that the actual weapons actually arrive and don't get blown up in the depot just like the F-16s. Exactly. I think the Russians are going to think this out. The Russians know they've won. And I think, sometimes, look, it's an attempt to turn over the chessboard, right? We've lost the game of chess. What can you do? You can accept your loss and try to turn over the board. I don't think the Russians are going to let them turn over the board, but I do think they'll launch a decapitating strike. How about we go next to Chicka Boom Boom says Biden wanted to start World War III days before he hands it over to Trump. So because he don't want to hand it over to Trump. And he's pissed at us. He's pissed at the people that didn't vote for him. He's pissed at white supremacists like me who didn't vote for the Biden team and didn't vote for Trump. But my job was to vote for Trump if I know what I'm doing. But I don't. And I don't go by their rules. I don't play by their games. I didn't vote for them. And now, from their perspective, I should pay with my stinking life. Matt X says, I hear what you're saying, Garland, but it sounds like 5D chess. I don't think anyone in the Biden administration is that clever to plan a Russian decapitation strike, but we will see. Yep, you may be. I don't think the Biden administration is, but I do think there are people. It may be somewhere in there, there's some people that have enough sense to say, here are some things what could happen if I do this? Here's several things that could happen. They could fire on us with nukes. They could sink one of our ships. They could blast all of our bases. A lot of our soldiers could get killed. And you know what John said? Oh, fuck those soldiers. I don't care about that. You don't care. Oh, we got to respect the troops. They're expendable. Let them die. That's where they really are. How do you respect and support the troops if you put them out there to be killed? Right. But I mean, there's something to be what you're saying. Yeah, they're not geniuses, but I think there are enough people in the Pentagon and otherwise to say, here are all the possible reactions. Let's go. And I think that's it. I think that's it. Rockfin. How about we look at Rockfin? Petal Lavelle says, it's like they're trying to fool us that Russia can't win a war without help. World War II was the winter narrative, and now it's Koreans. The Western elites are like children and such sad losers. Thanks for another great show, Garland. Thank you, Petal Lavelle. All right, next with Chicka Boom Boom says, what are your thoughts on possible civil war? Well, first of all, how's it going to happen? The people I'll put it like this. It would be kind of lopsided, wouldn't it? Who's going to be the civil war? If you think about it, the argument for civil war is gone. If you look at it, if Trump won, but first of all, we ain't going to have a civil war because Americans are on their phones. A civil war, yeah. Oh my God, did you see this TikTok video? No, we don't have the kind of people now that would do a civil war. But if Trump or Harris won by a hair, you could argue that there was tension amongst the people. They got destroyed. If there's a civil war, it would be kind of lopsided, wouldn't it? You know what I'm saying? The people who wanted change, the world wanted change. They voted for Trump. Now add this. All these people voted for Trump or voted for Jill Stein. So they're all on the side. We don't like the neoliberal neocons. But then millions and millions of people stay home. You know what they're on? They're on the side of we don't like the neoliberals and neocons. So the whole rest of the country that either voted for Trump, voted for Jill Stein or one of the other third parties, or stayed the hell home, which was probably as big a group as any of them, all of those would be on one side. And the other side would be a bunch of people who are have pronouns in front of their names. They'd have their military uniform would have he, her, she, they, and them on it. No, I don't think anybody's scared of these people. Come on, did you see the Tim Walz advertisement? I'm a man. I eat carburetors for dinner. Is anybody scared? I think I could take about four. I put it like this. I looked at those guys, YMCA looking guys. I think I could take them. I think right now, all of the guys in that video, I think I'd take them. I mean, they'd be so concerned about their matching, whether their outfits matched. You give them a uniform and they'd be like, oh, this olive gray is so drab. I got to have a brighter color. Nah, they ain't going to be much for fighting. So my point being, Civil War, that's done. And when you have a blowout, right? I mean, like I said, I went to Baltimore City and seen as Obama calls them, the brothers, right? I went to I go to Baltimore City. I see the brothers with a Trump sticker on the back of their car. So where's the, you know what I'm saying? They're going to be on the Trump side. You know what I mean? Brothers going to be like, hey, screw that, man. We all voted for Trump. So if there's a civil war, we're not down with fighting on behalf of these, the libtards, as they call them, or as the people on the left. A lot of people not on the left refer to the liberal group as the shit libs, whatever the case, right? So they're going to have the conservatives that hate them. They're going to have a lot of people of color, half, At least half of the voters that were Latinos hate him. All the people that didn't vote hate him, and they're just not the fighting kind. Okay, they're not the fighting type. Don't think we got to worry about people that supported Kamala taking arms against anybody. I don't really see those people as the fighting type, so I ain't scared of them. Okay. Anybody else? Did we miss anyone? An accurate decapitation strike wouldn't be on Z though. Oh yeah, a true decapitation strike would be on Foggy Bottom, but I think they understand that, you got to do what you got to do. All right. Anybody else? Okay, possible civil war. Let's see. Oh man, some of them are still coming in. Still, we got questions. If we see any questions, I'm going to answer them as long as they're coming in. Sparky says, the disturbing thing about Trump picking Hegseth isn't so much Hegseth as a Christian Zionist eschatologist accelerating to the apocalypse, but it shows Trump still gets his intel from MSNBC. Yeah, Trump has got a lot of weaknesses. I'll say this though. The one thing I'll say is people are accustomed to a cabinet-driven policies, right? In the Biden administration, you're like, let's face it, as I call it now, the Blinken-Sullivan administration, right? So it's driven. That ain't going to be the Trump. Trump's will not have a cabinet-driven policy. Trump's policy will be driven by Trump. And might I add this? As I've said before, this is his, what's the term I want to look for? This is his first draft, right? Let's face it. The last time, what did Trump have? Three secretaries of state, 3 or 4 secretaries of defense. So, when you look at the Secretary of State, Secretary of Defense, hell, by the time January 20th gets here, he might go through a couple of them. Trump does tend to run through various members of the team. So whatever the team looks like now, by the time the trade deadline gets here, he's going to have traded half of that team for some other traders and some other players and draft picks to be named later. You can pretty much count on that. Anybody else? I think Sparky's still in the mix. Sparky says, did you read your Rumble rants? You know what, Spark? You're a good man. Let's go to the Rumble rants. Let's see if we got anything. Sorry, I got to turn my head, but I got to go over here. My content. Do I have my Rumble rants? Do I have Rumble rants? Oh, holy crap, we got Rumble rants. Sparky! No, Sparky, you're a slickster, aren't you? He's everywhere. On Rumble, Sparky said, making all of Ukraine Russia again might be the final nail in NATO's coffin. You're right. There ain't nothing they can do to stop them. And also, Rumble rants. Miss Me With It says, could you please do an interview with Catherine Austin Fitts? She has a... Darn it. I don't see she has a something, but I know who Catherine Austin Fitts. You know what I need to do? In fact, I need to do something on Rumble because let's see. Anything else coming? Another Rumble rant says, Miss Me With It says, oh, there we go. She had some interesting things to say about what we should be keeping an eye on and advice on building parallel economies local. Brilliant lady. Interesting. Catherine Austin Fitts, huh? Yeah, I've watched her during COVID. I used to watch her. Some of the stuff that she did on COVID was pretty interesting. During COVID, I watched a lot of stuff, whether I agreed with it or not, liked it or not. Every bit of detail of information I could get, I brought it in, and I got some interesting stuff from her. I'm not saying she's perfect, she knows everything or anything. I'm just saying I followed her, and I got some interesting things from her. That's all I'm saying. Some stuff that I didn't, something I've watched some of her stuff. I'm like, I'm not down with that. And I've watched other stuff and I'm like, it sounds like it makes sense. So as people probably do the same with me. I hope they do. Zach Boyles, True Stream Media had document on Ivy League election, coping with Legos, milking cookies, taking days off, using midterm grades if they fail tests, etc. That's interesting. Ivy League election coping. Oh yeah, you look, these idiots. They're doing the best they can. They're hooked on copium. They don't understand it. Rolf says, are the Yanks going to ram Yahweh down everyone's throat now, dancing around screaming about Jesus coming and how Zionism is Americanism? There's people in Trump's cabinet who wants to do that. I tend to believe, if you really want to be honest, that Trump wants to focus on domestic policy. I kind of really believe, I may be wrong, maybe I'm wrong. I think Trump wants to end the wars. I really do. I think Trump wants to end the wars because I believe he really wants to focus on domestic policy. Now, I'm not saying that his domestic policies will work. They could be great, they could be terrible, but I think he wants to end the wars because I think he wants to focus on domestic policy. I really believe that. Maybe I'm wrong. The Yanks. Okay, Sparky. The team now may just be to placate Miriam. Like you said, Trump can change them later. Yeah, exactly. Oh, he goes, you know he's going to run through. Let me see. Is there anything else on Rumble Rants? No new Rumble Rants? All right. Well, gang, I think that's it. I certainly appreciate everybody taking time out of their busy schedule to hang out with me. And please do me a favor. Oh, it ain't over. Oh, that's a super sticker from Andrew. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So bottom line, everybody, share this on all your social media platforms. We got 1,707 people. That means we should have 1,707 likes and 1,707. Geez, why am I so hard about saying 1,707? That's how many we should have. We should have that many likes. We should have that many. Everybody subscribe. Also, last but not least, please share this on all your social media platforms. I really appreciate that. If you got Twitter, there's a new thing called Blue Sky or something. But you know what? I ain't joining that because I saw this and I saw all of these Biden loving, Harris supporting neoliberal mutts. They're all like, we're going to leave Twitter and we're going to go to Blue Sky. Well, I can't leave Twitter because I'm not allowed to access my account on Twitter. Although I sent them a letter recently. I wonder if Twitter's read my letter, certified mail that I've sent them with a devious plot behind it. But at any rate, but I ain't on Twitter. And I sure as hell ain't joining Blue Sky. I mean, you can if you want to, but I get a feeling it's neoliberal heaven. And God knows I need. And the same reason I have an account on Truth Social, but I'm not really on there. I got one on there, and it's Truth Social is a conservative account. I have a feeling that Blue Sky is going to be a bunch of Hollywood, former Twitter Hollywood people, and a bunch of people over in London, all getting on there, whining and crying in their soup about how bad they got beat by Trump. So no thanks on Blue Sky. It's possible that I may get an account on there, but if I do, it'll just be to aggravate the hell out of those people. I'll just keep putting stuff up that they hate, that I don't even like. I'll put something up that I know that I'm like, hey, they'll really hate this one. Click, let's put it up. And they'll be like, oh my God, that's misinformation. We have to take it off. I'll just put up the word COVID every day. COVID sucks. And they'll be like, oh my God, he said COVID. He's got to be thrown off. And they're easy. These people, it's easy to be a burr under their saddle. So, I can be devious at times. So maybe I'll join Blue Sky just so I can put up articles. You know what I could do? I could go on there and I could share all of the stuff off of my social media and share all the stuff off of here and all that, just stuff that's going to infuriate them, and see how long it takes before they cancel me. And then I'll say, so that's what Blue Sky's about, canceling people, huh? All right, Sparky. Anything else? That's it, gang. All right, thanks, everybody. Share this on all your social media platforms. Last but not least, if you can afford it, Patreon is great. PayPal, buy me a coffee is always an easy one, and Cash App is great. Any way that you can help the channel is certainly appreciated by me. Share this on all your social media platforms. Oh, you guys ain't going anywhere, are you? Lotta says, dear Mr. Nixon, thank you for your streams. Love very much your sense of humor. Thank you, Lotta Moreau. Rolf says, USA sounds like MIGA too. Make Israel great again. Yeah, it's pretty as much as MIGA here. All right. That's everything. If somebody has some good info, email me, garlandin@gmail.com. If you got something you want me to cover, or you got some good information to share with me, you can do that too. My first name and the first letter of my last name @gmail.com. Peace. I am